Stremlau is a visiting professor of international relations at Wits University and former vice president for peace programs at the Carter Center in the United States. He now joins us via Skype. Prof, good evening and thank you so much for joining us on The Globe.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Now, Prof, how was U.S. President Donald Trump expecting a warm welcome from countries like China at this summit?
No, I don't think he's expecting, but he may expect a warm greeting. He said that Xi Jinping likes him and he likes Xi Jinping. He said that last week. But seriously, this is an American president who's in the weakest position, and having alienated so many members of the G20 over the past 2 years. You earlier piece referred to the 2016 summit. Well, that was when Obama was still president. Now it's a very different world, and Donald Trump, on his way down to Argentina, learned that his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, had pleaded guilty to lying to Congress about the business dealings that Donald Trump was doing in Russia during the campaign, which has been denied by Trump repeatedly. We don't know whether he's legally, how badly exposed he is, but this is a preoccupation, and I can't help but think that the other leaders of the G20 look at Donald Trump and wonder how long he'll be in office.
Now, Prof, President Trump has also signed a new deal with Mexico and Canada. Was this some kind of a macho PR exercise ahead of the G20 summit?
Well, there were problems. I was actively involved in negotiating the first NAFTA, and there were problems and weaknesses we knew back then, and they have been evident during the past couple of decades. But this new U.S.-Mexican Canada agreement that Trump wants to call it, the others are calling it the revised NAFTA, has plenty of details in it. It was a subject of very vigorous negotiations by technical people. It's going to be a while before we know what's really in it. And in any case, I'm glad they signed it, but they have to be ratified now by the parliaments of all three countries, and the U.S. Congress, particularly after the Democrats took the House of Representatives, will be very engaged in trying to figure out what's going on, and we'll learn more as the weeks unfold. At the moment, I'm just withholding judgment.
Now, Prof, who among the leaders at the summit have some sort of mileage with regards to standing up to President Trump and his America First agenda?
Well, I think sort of all of them. I mean, I thought Cyril Ramaphosa gave a very strong and immediate and justified reaction when Trump started pontificating over Twitter about land reform in South Africa. You know, we've done our transition from apartheid. We'll solve this ourselves. Thank you very much. You take care of your own problems. On the levels that you referred to earlier on, Xi Jinping, this dinner tomorrow night is very, very important, obviously, because the trading relationship between the United States and China can set loose forces that impact on other countries all over the world, including if Trump was to escalate the protectionism and extend it to automobiles, it would have a terrible impact on South Africa. So that we'll watch that with great interest and care. However, there have been so many mixed messages coming out of Washington as to whether or not a deal will be cut. And everyone knows that it's going to come down to, quote, Trump's gut. Now, Xi Jinping is a very tough guy, a very shrewd leader, I think worth very careful study by South Africa and cooperation. And let's wait and see who succeeds Donald Trump. Putin, Trump is not meeting with Putin now. He hardly can after being implicated for all his business dealings in Russia. Putin's very strong and tough-minded, but he's going to be sanctioned hard by the Europeans because what's going on in Ukraine is unacceptable. I mean, Ukraine is an independent country, and Putin's broken the rules. You can go down the list, Japan, Modi, and India. I won't do it now. Each one of these leaders is operating right now without the United States as a prospective partner. It is without precedent. The G20 has been meeting since 2008 at the head of state level and since 1999 in the 98-99. at the finance minister's level. It's a very, very important forum, and I'm glad Cyril Ramaphosa is there and advancing South Africa's interests. But it is a peculiar meeting because of Donald Trump.
Now, what are some of the key points that the leaders would want to focus on at the summit?
Well, the Argentinians have said that sustainable agriculture would be the main topic. And then other members of the G20 have indicated they want to talk about cryptocurrency. Now, bear in mind, these meetings only go on for 2 days. So that if the work in, say, sustainable agriculture is going to be done, it's going to be done by the agricultural ministers over the course of a year. I just think that, unfortunately, for this moment, the Trump phenomenon is taking all the oxygen out of the meeting, and that we'll learn in the weeks and months ahead whether, in fact, they have a better understanding of what it takes to have cooperation for sustainable agriculture and agricultural trade progress. Similarly, with problems of wider development interests like health and the like, it's good to have these personal contacts. There are a lot of side conversations which go on. But for the formal meetings, it's really a photo opportunity.
Now, Professor Stremlau, climate change, a very big issue, a very contentious issue. The United States has not hidden its objection to collective action on the issue. What is likely to come out of the summit this time around?
Nothing, right, but you raise an extraordinarily important point and one that's a vital concern to Africa. And my great regret is that Donald Trump walked away from the Paris Peace Accord as well as the Green Climate Fund, which was so important for mitigating the higher levels of global warming in Africa for poor countries. That's got to be salvaged. Bear in mind that Donald Trump does not speak for the United States anymore, certainly not on climate change. What's going on at the state and local levels, what's going on in the private sector is all extremely important, but it does need U.S. leadership. And perhaps once we get beyond this Trump era, either in 2020 or perhaps even before then, but who knows, and I could be wrong, then you will get the United States as being, to use the old phrase, a more responsible stakeholder. We had a lot of reservations about Obama's policies, but at least he took climate change very seriously, and he negotiated with Xi Jinping to get that Green Climate Fund up and running and funded until Trump, smashed it to smithereens early in his administration.
Now, Prof, very quickly, just going back to the issue of President Trump's lawyer and his statement afterwards saying that he's lying to ensure that he comes out clean and he gets a lesser sentence and he's in agreement with the state attorney. In terms of that, is there a way of working around Donald Trump's presidency? Are we likely to see this particular president being impeached? Are we at that point of the issues that Donald Trump is facing internally?
Not yet, not yet. And bear in mind that the impeachment process is a House of Representatives indictment process. The trial would be in the Senate. The Senate is still controlled by the Republicans, not a great majority, but enough to thwart that if it came to that, unless the Republicans concluded that they are so vulnerable to heavy losses in 2020 that they really do have to encourage Donald Trump to step aside like they did Richard Nixon back in the 1970s. There is going on in the United States right now something akin to the process of the Zondo Commission here, looking into the private dealings and financial interests and benefits that Donald Trump was involved with. He lied repeatedly during the early part of the primary campaign in 2016, if in fact his lawyer, Michael Cohen, is now held up as telling the truth about these lies in pleading guilty to the crimes. And Trump himself is not clear yet how legally exposed he is, but politically this is a huge change because he can't hide anymore. Trump Tower, supposedly NBC was reporting tonight, and on fairly good sources they claim, that he had promised the 15th floor penthouse to Vladimir Putin. Now here you have an adversary of the United States messing around with a campaign trying to win the election for Donald Trump. It was a very close election. and Donald Trump is giving him a penthouse in Trump Tower if the contract goes through. It's really absurd. You can't believe these things happen, except we know what state capture is in South Africa. It's just unimaginable that, to me, that the Americans would be in the same boat, but they are.
Professor Stremlau, thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there for now. That's Professor John Stremlau of International Relations at Wits University and former Vice President for Peace Programs at the Carter Center in the United States. Time now for a quick